Hi, everyone. Welcome to Talking Tech with Creative Podcasts. My name is Stella Oni, and I usually try to talk about technology news. I try to do that every time I do the podcast, but I haven't got technology news this week. Not because I haven't got one, but because I'm planning to do a solo episode that is going to just cover technology to date. Because I try to do that and how it affects different industries. Talking Tech with Creative Podcast is an intersection between technology and creativity, and I'm in both worlds. That's why I'm so passionate about this podcast. And our last guest was all about entrepreneurship in like Black entrepreneurship, how that operates in the UK, and then a comparison to the US. So that was Dr. Carlton Brown was in the last podcast. Go and listen to that. Today, I'm so excited because I've got a literary agent. Her name is Francesca Riccardi, and I'm going to let you know that she's my agent. She's fantastic. Even though she's here, I'm going to tell you how good she is. She is fantastic because she just makes you feel yourself. And do you know how difficult it is to be yourself with people? So Francesca is amazing. She's absolutely professional in the way she does it, but she makes you feel comfortable and she's just amazing. So enough gushing. So I'm just going to
Oh,
introduce Francesca Riccardi of Kate Nash Literary Agency. So what we're going to do, we're just going to find out because Francesca actually knows the industry in and out because she works in publishing. So she's going to tell us a bit about herself, well, her background, how she got into publishing, how she got hooked into being a literary agent and what it entails. So we're just going to start that conversation now. So Francesca, welcome to Talking Tech with Creative Podcast. Thank you for agreeing to talk to me.
thanks so much for having me, Stella, and for the lovely welcome. How lovely was that? Oh, pleasure. Yeah, so I'm Stella's lucky agent, and I've been a literary agent for a couple of years now. But before that, I worked for over 15 years in-house at publishers. So I've worked at HarperCollins. I worked at Constable and Robinson, which is now an imprint or two separate imprints in Little Brown, Hachette. And wherever else have I worked? I've worked at Atlantic Books, which is an independent publisher. They published My Sister the Serial Killer as one of their best-selling titles. And I also worked most recently at Canelo, where I was sales and marketing director. So I've worked in kind of sales and marketing, but I've also done little bits of production. And I think the way I came into publishing, I came in through a side door. I did start at the bottom, but I came in from the side rather than studying publishing or anything like that, which is something I'm asked about a lot. But recently, so a couple of years ago, I moved into literary agenting and I love it. It's brilliant.
And I love the fact that you've actually been around, so you know the landscape very well. The thing that's making me curious is, and a lot of my audience probably don't know much about the publishing and all its intricacies. Me having tried to be a published writer for years, I decided to learn a lot more about the publishing industry, and you cannot even know everything. Aspects that I know, that aspects that I don't know. So
Yeah.
just tell us about the publishing landscape because I'll be asking about being a literary agent, but I just want to understand or explain a little bit about how publishing works because I know some of the people that are listening know that we have traditional publishing. We have
Mhm.
what the Americans call indie publishing. We call it self-publishing.
Self-publishing. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So let's try and understand the intricacies of what it is to be published traditionally by different
Yeah.
kind of publishers and then that this self-publishing. Can you give us a bit more about it?
Yeah, sure. I'll give you a very sort of broad overview of what I think the main differences are. So obviously a lot of people are self-publishing these days, which we'll get onto. And I would like to say before I start on anything else, I think that self-publishing is an incredibly important part of the publishing landscape. It's forced publishers to look at things differently. And I think that change and innovation in publishing is incredibly important. So I'm all for self-publishing. That being said, I've spent most of my career working in-house at publishers, and I've worked at publishers big and small. You have in the UK and in the US, but in the UK, I'll concentrate on this market because this is our home market. We have the big five publishers. So I'm going to miss one out now. We have
Yeah.
Pan Macmillan, HarperCollins, Penguin, Random House, Jets. That's right. Who am I missing out? Oh, I've missed out someone.
I
I
know.
knew this would happen.
Happen.
There's a fifth one.
Yeah.
So would you just Simon and Schuster? Take my
Yeah,
word.
yeah,
Yeah, there you
It
go.
was,
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
on the back of
Simon and
my mind. It
Schuster.
was on the back of my mind. But
I
Simon
said
Schuster,
that
yeah.
and I thought, God, I'm definitely going to miss one.
So
Anyway,
they've gobbled up everybody else. Most of
exactly.
them,
Yeah,
well, nearly
exactly.
everybody else. Yeah.
Yes, so those are the big sort of powerhouses of publishing. And within those, they have various different imprints. And the various different imprints will offer different kinds of things. So, for example, you have an imprint in HarperCollins called HQ, which is mainly digitally focused. But you also have an imprint in HarperCollins called Avon, which is very commercial fiction focused. And they do incredibly well getting books into supermarkets. So, what bigger publishers are able to do, they're this kind of umbrella that have lots of really focused, dedicated imprints that are really good at certain genres or good at entering certain markets or working with certain kinds of authors and working on trends as well and things that are new. They can be quite nimble with how they work. But I don't think they can be as nimble, whichever way you look at it, as independent publishers. So the biggest independent publisher in the UK, I think, is Bloomsbury. Faber and Faber, another independent publisher. Now they are on the bigger end of things, but there are lots of smaller publishers as well. One that's doing incredibly well currently is Boldwood. I know that I'm sure we've talked about Boldwood before. Yeah, they've got a lot of great crime authors.
But it seems to have they been around? Because suddenly when I multiple deals, because the deals the Baldwins are doing, they're not like one or two book deals.
No.
We'll talk about deals because a lot of people don't understand what that means, but they are doing like 6 book deals, 7 book.
Yes. And this is part, it's not the entire difference because each independent publisher is of course different as well. But I think that independent publishers, they are smaller teams. They don't have that kind of hierarchy and structure in the same way that a really big corporate publisher does. And they're able to be more nimble, but they're also able to bend the rules because as you've said, you don't typically see a 6-book deal at a traditional publishing house. And you didn't any publishing house until someone like Boldwood came along and started signing people up for 6 books. And it's fantastic for authors because it means they can commit, they can dedicate their time, they can figure out what they're doing, what their writing commitments are. So I would say the biggest difference for me, having worked at both, is that independent publishers can often be a little bit more nimble. They can respond to things a little bit more quickly just because they don't have quite the amount of hierarchy in the building, the same way that a corporate publisher would. But every publisher has its strengths and its weaknesses, is what I would say. They're all really great at what they do well. But I think that anyone looking at publishing would also say, oh, maybe they could do this a bit better or that a bit better or whatever else it is. But they've all got their set strategies and goals and they're excellent at what they do.
And of course, publishers, independents, small presses. Can you tell us a little bit more about the small presses as well?
Yeah, small presses they're very interesting because they are so hyper focused on certain areas of the market. We're seeing, so I think it was at the British Book Awards, was it this year or last year? Swift Press were up for a few awards, and there were a few very small presses that have done incredibly well. I think the thing is with the really kind of micro small presses is that they are really hyper focusing on an area. So whereas someone like Boldwood, who we've mentioned, for example, might be focusing very broadly on commercial fiction in, say, crime and romance, largely, although, of course, they have some other books in there as well. A kind of micro press will almost focus on one thing. So they might focus on women and non-binary authors, or they might focus on Black authors, like we have with, say, Jacaranda, or they might focus on Welsh authors or anything else like that. In order to break through in those areas, they do have to have an even more defined, not criteria for publishing, but goal of the voices that they want to amplify. And I think that maybe they also have a little bit more space to take risks than bigger publishers would have. Bigger publishers will fill in a P&L, a profit and loss sheet whenever they acquire someone, figure out how much money they think they're going to make and whether it's going to be worth their time. Not saying that the smaller presses won't do that, but they just have a little bit more flexibility to be a bit more, to experiment a little bit more and to take a few more risks.
Do you know something highlighting that? Because I knew small, I'm with a small press, Jacaranda,
Yeah.
but I didn't know that they were that hyper focused till you said that.
Yeah. But you know now, and that's what I mean, is if you look at Jacaranda and think about the amount of books they've had shortlisted or winning awards. And when I met them at London Book Fair this year, oh God, what did they tell? It was something absolutely mad. Something like 1 in 5 of all of their books is shortlisted or wins an award. And that's that hyper focus on that area. They're so incredibly invested in it. That's the thing that's really important to them, that they are living it, breathing it every day. And they're able to really identify the top quality books and content in that area.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I know that they've done that. So now let's now come back to you being a literary agent, because now we're talking about all these different kind of publishers and what most of them have in common, although some ask for direct submission. What most of them have in common is wanting to have authors represented. So they don't want the authors directly most of the time submitting their work. I don't even think the slush file exists anymore. You used to have it in years before where you have a file. Now I don't even think it exists anymore. I think now it's like they want a literary agent. So can you explain yourself as a literary agent, how you come into what we just explained now?
Yeah, sure. So the last job I had in trade publishing at a publisher, I was a sales and marketing director. So I was really senior in that company. And I think the thing is, when you get more senior in any company, you do less of the kind of nitty-gritty hands-on stuff, and you do more of the people management and the logistics side of things and keeping people happy. You're often managing a team or managing a process. And it got to the stage I'm 40 now, but at that time I was very aware. I think as women, we're always aware how we're aging. I was very aware I was turning 40 in a few years, and I thought, gosh, am I where I want to be? I'm not sure. And I really loved my job and I loved working with the authors, and it was such a great team to work with. But the thing that really made me get out of bed every day was the days when I could have a call with an author and talk about their plans or maybe what they could be writing next or things like that. And I got to do that. And I was the person in that company that if there was a problem, I was a sales and marketing director. If there were a problem with that author's sales or marketing plan or whatever, I would be the one that would sit on the call with the author and explain what was happening and what the plan was. So I was very used to communicating with authors about what they needed, what I needed, what the plan was, all of that kind of thing. And I just lent more and more towards working with authors themselves. And of course, publishers are incredibly important. But for me, I got to a stage where I thought, actually, I don't want to be working for the publisher anymore. I want to be working for the authors. Because that's the thing that if you don't have any authors, you don't have any publishing. So I left that job, and then a few months later, I got a job with Kate Nash Literary Agency. I just wrote to a few agents and said, look, I'm looking for a change of direction. Do you want to take a bit of a chance on me? And it is taking a chance, because even though I've been in the industry so long, I don't have an editorial background, which most agents do. I have a sales background, which most agents don't. So I was coming at being an agent from a slightly different angle. And Kate ended up taking me on and giving me a shot at it. And it's working out pretty well. I've got some really great clients. But as a new agent, there are certain ways that I was working for a literary agency and I didn't have any clients because, of course, I didn't. I'd only just started. So I had to lean on a few things there. I had to lean on the contacts I had in the publishing industry in terms of what events are happening, what kind of people are going where are all the authors hanging out? Because I've been out of the loop then for 5 months, and publishing moves, as you, Stella, incredibly slowly but incredibly quickly at the same time. So I felt quite behind, and so I put a lot of time into going to the major crime festivals. I went to Harrogate and Bloody Scotland that year, going into London to meet editors to find out what they were looking for. And we did have a submissions inbox at the agency, and I would just comb through there as well and see if there was anything that was interesting, and I did get a couple of clients like that. But how we bring clients on, I think any agent will tell you, it really varies on what's going on. I do use Query Manager, so people can submit queries there, but quite a lot of the time as well, there might be, like you and I. Can I talk a little bit about how you and I started working together? So Stella and I first met at the CWA Awards, and we were seated next to each other.
Crime Writers Association Gala Dinner.
That's right. Yeah, the awards dinner. And we were seated next to each other on this table. And I had a client there who was shortlisted for an award. But I don't think I was sat next to her, or maybe I was for a little bit and then they moved around. I was sat next to Stella, and we started chatting, and Stella told me she was a writer, and said, "Oh, what are you writing?" We started talking a little bit about just something that Stella has had an idea for. And it sounded really good. And I said, "Oh, if you're looking for an agent, then, if you're ever thinking about working with an agent," because also when someone's worked without an agent, I don't think they always realize, they don't always completely know what an agent does or the value an agent can add. But because all publishing is such a people business, you do know quite quickly, you'll know as well, Stella, because I know you spend a lot of your time speaking to people and learning from people and them from you, when you can work well with someone.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're lucky as literary agents in that we can make those decisions. And so can authors, of course, have a choice in this as well. If you're offered representation by an agent, you don't have to accept it. You're not, no one owes anyone anything. It's a business at the end of the day. Publishing is a business. And I think because you'd been through the process already with Jacaranda, you could understand publishing as a business. And that's appealing to me because you get it, but also you will ask questions. So yeah, we met there, and I must have given you a card, and you give me a card, and we said, "Oh, just be in touch whenever, if you fancy. I'm happy to have a chat with you about working with a literary agent." And then we went away, didn't we? And then it must have been that December that same year, so maybe 6 months later, yeah, something like that. And I was again, it was a CWA, so a Crime Writers Association Christmas drinks, I think.
It was, yes.
And I turned around and there was Stella, and I said, "Oh, hi, Stella, do you remember me? We met." Yeah, and then we just had a chat there, and my colleagues were there as well, and you met Kate Nash of Kate Nash Literary Agency, and you met my colleague Saskia as well. That was just it's a nice night every year, actually. Just everyone gets together, has a few drinks, and yeah, we had another chat there. And I said again, if you ever look at, because you don't want to pressure people, I said, if you want to have a chat sometime, be in touch. And then maybe another 6 months after that, you got in touch, and we had a chat, and Stella sent over some samples of your writing, because obviously when an agent's taking on something, they want to like what they're reading. No one wants to slog through a writer that they don't like reading. So I read it and I thought, yeah, we met there, and we had another chat. And I said again, obviously no pressure. You've got some publishing going on, and you're very busy generally with the day job and everything. But yeah, do be in touch if you ever interested in working with a literary agent. And yeah, it must have been probably another 6 months after that. Stella did email me and sent me some sample chapters. Said, "I don't know if you're still looking for clients, but here I am. I'm ready to share some sample chapters." And I read them. I really loved them. It's just such a fun writer. You're just such a fun writer, Stella. There's just such a lot of heart in your characters. And what I remember from my first time reading those opening chapters is this kind of bit of society that I don't want to give anything away about the book, but it immediately, and this is how you know as an agent that you're into something, immediately your brain starts spinning with, how would I pitch this to publishers? Which publishers might be interested in it? That kind of thing. So I just got all those exciting feelings. And then we spoke on the phone or on a Zoom, I think, a little while after that, and I offered representation, and luckily Stella said yes. But that's just one example of how you might get clients as an agent. You might meet people, or sometimes people have sent something and that one hasn't been quite right, but I've said, if you've got anything else that you'd like me to consider, I'll look at that instead. Yeah, there are loads of different places where agents might find authors, and I think the kind of traditional slush pile, as people imagine it, like you say, Stella, it doesn't exist. Is you don't get a literary agent behind a big pile of paper or something like that, but Query Manager is what I use, and that's where people can query me more generally. But we meet people all over the places. That there are plenty of award ceremonies. When you're working with clients, they are hanging out with authors all the time. And people just hear about you and see you places. And I think at some point we're going to maybe talk a little bit about social media and TikTok and things like that. But people will find you, people will find certain agents, and they will be wanting to query the ones that they gravitate towards. So yeah, they find me most of the time, but quite often I go looking for them as well.
So the question I want to ask is, so let me just explain, because I've got my audience from with varying backgrounds. I've got ones that are self-publishing and ones. So a self-published author has to do everything, including the marketing and the sales, whatever, using a platform that they have to use. So then authors that want to get traditional published use independent publishers or presses or whatever, would go and query an agent, do everything, the sales, the platforms, whatever, to get themselves out there, which we know that a lot of people get self-published. But then we have this sector of the market. I don't know what the percentage is now of trad published, independent press, independent publishers, what the percentage is to the rest of self-published works. But in between that, you have the agents.
Yeah.
And the work of the agent is to present the work, a filtering system, to the editors in the publishing houses.
That's right, yeah.
The question is, I don't know, because you get a lot of people contacting you. How do you make a decision about who you take on? How do you not miss somebody and maybe you rejected, or maybe you miss that person and you thought, oh my God, how did I miss this person? So how many people could you have on your book realistically? Because I review books and I can't even, it's a lot.
Can't keep up. Yeah, with the reading, that's the thing, we had a team meeting today. Well, how do I do it? I don't know. I've got at the moment, just as a kind of illustration of what my inbox is like, I've got 28 clients, and currently I have 6 full books from those clients that are waiting for me to read them. And that's a mixture of books that are already under contract that the author wants me to have a read through before it goes to their editor. But there are also books in there that haven't been out on submission yet to any publishers. So I'll be giving more broader editorial thoughts. So there is a lot of reading. We do read a lot of my working day is, especially around now when everyone's spent all summer writing, a lot of my working days recently has been reading. I've been sat reading, taking notes, maybe looking up other comparisons in the market, refreshing my memory of what editors are looking for, that kind of thing. I have had I mean, it's the kind of thing that gives me like the horrors where I think, gosh, what if I'm passing on something fantastic and then someone else is going to publish it and then whatever, and I've missed out on it. And then I think to myself, if I've passed on something, it's because I've not connected with it. And I think we've all picked up a book before and it's been a prize winner, a bestseller, whatever it is. And we've read the first page and gone, can't really be bothered to turn the page. It seems like a bit of a waste of energy, but I'll do it anyway. And then you read the next bit and you're like, no, I can't be bothered. And you put it away because life's too short, right? So I know that if a book like that, I read that and it's not connecting with me, because reading is so subjective. If it's not connecting with me, it's not right for me. And I know I've got to pass on that book. That being said, I've also been in situations where I've offered representation to an author because I've really loved the book, but so have other agents. So occasionally I have seen a book that I've passed on that's got a deal and I think, oh yeah, I saw that. Oh, maybe I was wrong about it. But the thing that I've learned from agenting and just in general actually is I've got to trust my instincts, not just about the people that I'm working with and what's going on there, but my own instincts about the books. It's only me and the book there. There's no one else. I can ask my colleagues at the agency for opinions and things, but they've all got their own submissions that they're working through. So I just have to really respond, see how my body, my brain, I'm responding. Like when see when I read your sample chapters, like I said, my mind started whirring and I was like, oh, this is how I would position it. This is who I think might like it. And if you start thinking like that, because I think it's because my background is sales and marketing. So I always say, if there's that hook, that one line pitch or something, and I can envisage how I talk to a publisher about it, then I know it might be a good fit for me. And then at that stage, it's a matter of talking to the author and trying to convince them that I'm the right fit for them.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That would make me segue into sales and marketing. Because it's an interesting thing. When I started off with my writing journey, I started off decades ago wanting to be a writer. I wanted to express myself. And my frustration was that I didn't have the right language for what I wanted. But when I go back to read some of my work, I remember trying to write for Bella, one of those short magazines. And I looked at the story, and I looked at the story, and I looked at the story that I wrote. And I looked at the story that I wrote, and I found out that those stories were actually quite good. But at that time, they were rejected. So what I'm saying is that I think I was still quite good, but I know that there were weaknesses in some of my bits of my writing, be it the structure, be it there's so many factors to story that it's crazy.
Yeah.
So that's one aspect. That's one aspect of thing. You have to write a damn good story.
Yeah.
A damn good story is
that's the primary thing. That's the primary thing.
Somebody objective.
Yes.
What you would write, what you would like is different from what I would like.
Exactly.
Sell might be, I might like something, but it might not really sell. It might not be short fiction. So sales and marketing. So people go, they write their book, let's say they self-publishing, and it might be good writing, might not be good writing.
Yeah.
What is the percentage that you need to put in? What percentage is sales and marketing? Or let's say marketing. For me, I think that marketing is like 70% and the writing is 30%, but that's me. You might think differently. I'm just thinking, or maybe 50-50. Because it's not good having a good book somewhere and not be able to market it.
Yeah. I think marketing is really hard. I probably agree with you. Maybe even higher. Maybe even like 80% marketing and 20%. Because as long as you've got I truly believe there is a readership for every single book. And a book that I wouldn't touch or go near. I'm always talking, when I'm doing my TikTok lives, I'm always talking about how there are some themes that I'm just not interested in. So, for example, if there is really like gratuitous violence against women on the first page, and or like a sexual assault, and I just, no, I don't want, do you know what I mean? If you're going to write this kind of theme, especially in a crime book, there has to be a purpose to it, and sometimes it just feels like you're just putting that there to create a shock factor, and I don't like that. But I'm also just not drawn to military thrillers, SAS type things. I just don't read them. So I'm not the right agent for them. But there are markets for all of those things. I think that, the trick is I do think, there's a readership for every book. But as you say, if no one can find that book and see that book, then they're not going to be able to read it. There are books that I discovered years after they were published because I didn't know they existed until someone said, have you read this? I think you might quite like it. And that's a type of marketing as well, isn't it? Word of mouth. But I think self-publishing, it's incredibly important, whichever part of publishing you're working in, to get into your head, like first and foremost, publishing is a business. Yes, it is a creative endeavor and it is an art, but it's also a business. And I think working with a literary agency, if you can secure representation, will be one of the best things you can do as a writer, because your literary agent will help you understand the publishing as a business, and you can get on with the writing. And I think that's what it comes down to, is when you are self-publishing, you are the writer, you are the business person, you are the marketer, you're the agent, you're the person doing all the negotiations, you're briefing a cover designer as well, you're the editor, you're all of these little bits and pieces. And I think when people, it's a full-time job, is what I think. To do it well, it's a full-time job. And I think that people that do it well do it incredibly well. And actually, I get asked this a lot as well when I'm talking on TikTok. People saying, would you take on something that's been previously self-published? And yes, I would. And the reason for that is because it's tried and tested. It's gone out there. It's got some kind of reader reviews. It's been for sale, and it feels lower risk to me because I can see one way or another how it's being received. And the sales numbers, I care like not less about sales. I mean, obviously, if something's sold a lot, then great.
Yeah.
But if something's being consistently reviewed very well, that's something to pay attention to. And I've got a client who, and this is another way I have found clients in the past. This client was shortlisted for an RNA, so that's a Romantic Novelist Association award, in the romantic thriller category. And she's written a cozy crime. She's written 2 books in this series. And I saw she was shortlisted, and I saw she was self-published. And the covers really caught my eye. And then I went and read the description and I thought that sounds good. And then I read the sample you can see on Amazon. And I thought I like that. So I just wrote to her and said, just seen this and I really like the look of it. And I've had a read. Would you be interested in talking to a literary agent? And we did talk and we got on and I read her books, offered her representation. She didn't win the RNA award, but I did secure her. So there was 2 self-published books and I got her a deal with an independent publisher for those 2 books, plus another 2 books in that series. That's now going to be a 4-book series, and also a deal with Audible for her audiobooks. But that felt for me as an agent a relatively low risk. I don't know, and that's not to say it's not a bad thing or anything, but I could see that this author was being well received. So self-publishing is an incredibly important part of the publishing ecosystem because it shows you what people want to read, what readers want to read, not what publishers are telling readers they want to read. Readers can go out and find what they want to read now. If someone's self-publishing it well and using all the right kind of hooks and keywords.
Okay, so let's talk about marketing. If you're mid-list or you're just starting out, don't even expect much of any budget from a publisher because the publishers are pushing the people that will make them the money because the person that makes them the money for them to publish people like us, for them to publish. Yeah. So when we now talk about marketing, what does that entail for an author? And as an agent, how do you encourage your authors to market their books? Because there are authors that might not be interested. Because the more a book sells, the more everybody is likely to make, right?
Yeah.
So because some authors are not interested in marketing. So how do you manage that?
Every author's different, right? And some authors are really great at some things, and some authors just aren't like you say, aren't interested. Some authors are very interested, for example, in going and speaking at festivals or on panels or things like that. And some don't really want to talk to anyone ever. And that's fine, because ultimately what you want an author to be doing is writing.
Yeah.
So I always say to my clients, as much or as little as you want in that space is fine with me. Okay. Ultimately, it is the publisher's job to market the book, but there is certainly no harm in an author engaging with the marketing themselves as well. From having worked in sales and marketing, I think that the only effective way to market books really is through paid advertising. So Amazon Marketing Services, Facebook advertising has a very good click-through rate as well, especially for commercial genres. Paid advertising.
What I'm hearing out there, and I'll tell you the trends because I'm really following technology trends and all that. So what I'm hearing out there is and I will hold that thought anyway. Let me hold that thought in terms of sales and the Amazon and all that and the Facebook, because what is going on now is we've got writing is the nature of what writing is changing.
Yeah.
And I have to then mention things like AI technology. Because we've got generative AI, we now have people who are writing because you don't have any mandate over anybody. And we're talking about worldwide now, who are flooding the market with AI generated work of any kind. And they're putting paid advertisement behind it. So what I'm hearing is now I'm hearing that it's better for authors to develop a community-based leadership audience. So where you're cultivating your community via different methods, which is email, lists, going to festivals, going to in person, and actually cultivating your readers.
Yeah.
And what do you say about that?
I think that's the best marketing that authors can do, is for themselves rather than for their books. I think that, like you say, building those communities of other writers and readers is really important. And newsletters, author newsletters, and publishers use newsletters as well, of course, are a huge marketing tool. If you can email directly and say, this author that you signed up for a marketing email about has all of these books on a 99p offer at the moment, then they're probably, most of those people are going to download those books. And it's just getting the right people in the right place at the right time. And in terms of, I think, engaging with readers, engaging with other writers, and building this community is really important for author marketing, because yes, you could have an AI generated book and the whole book could be generated, like including the cover, the blurb, and the book itself could be generated, but that author isn't going to be authentic and legitimate and present. I do think there's more of a pressure on authors these days to be like everyone expects to be able to be in touch with everyone all the time. You expect to be able to send celebrities a message on Instagram or whatever, and you expect to be able to talk to whoever. But I think that authors who are doing social media well are building those communities, but also are they're going up the ladder and they're helping people up behind. I think that it's for authors to do that. I think that builds a real kind of trust. And when people see that and readers see that, they trust that author. They don't just trust that they can write a really great book. They trust that when they're buying a book by that author, because people, more and more, books have always been political, of course. It's just getting to the point of more and more people will make decisions based on what an author is doing or saying online. We've got so much choice. We don't have to read. There isn't just this one crime author or one romance author. If someone's being awful, then people can buy another book. And we have a almost unlimited choice. So I think for authors, being their real authentic self and building those communities is the best marketing they can do. But what I should say is that publishers, agents, authors all want the same thing, which is the book to sell. And everyone has a sort of different role to play in that.
Yeah. So in that case, because what I wanted to say is that so everybody has a part to play in terms of marketing. So then now let's talk about sales. Because for me, and I'll tell you how I buy books. I'm obsessed with books. I buy books in person. So if I love an author, really love an author, I will go for an author event, book launch or whatever, or a festival, and I'll buy my hard copy. I love my book covers.
And get it signed.
I will have my 20 or 30 pounds ready to buy from the author or several books.
Yeah.
That's one, my signed copy.
Yeah.
Then I consume my books, those books that I have on my shelf, and I'll take one each of those books. So even when I have those books, I might not necessarily start reading them. It might take me a while to read those books because I'm busy consuming ebooks, I'm busy consuming podcasts, I'm busy consuming, and maybe there's an author that is trending somewhere on the newspaper or the list, because I go through all the lists as well, the top whatever bestsellers and all that.
Yeah.
Maybe if I see their book in a charity shop, I might pay £2 for books like that. That's the way I necessarily consume my books. I consume audiobooks, non-fiction, audiobooks and non-fiction. So you can see that there are different choices that we have. So for someone to put their hand in their pockets and spend money on a book, what would it take for someone, because this is sales we're talking about now, spend money on me if I don't have that personal relationship with you? And then I met an author recently who was feeling a bit down because she said, oh, she was expecting her series to sell better than it sells. So they were expecting to make money. So the question I want to ask now is, a lot of people say you don't make money from publishing. That if you published your book, you're not necessarily going to make money from it. You cannot make a living from it, so not make money. Only the top percentage will make money out of full time. That's what I don't write full time. I can't make money from my book. So that's number one. Then number two, what I say to authors, for me, what I get out of my work is I'm obsessed with what I'm writing. I'm not even sure whether it will sell or not, but I think I'm a commercial fiction writer anyway, because I love commercial fiction. But I'm excited about my writing, and I'm excited about speaking. I love speaking. I love talking. You can prompt me. I can talk. So I told the author, I said, look, you're good at this. So your book is like your passport. Then you can get offshoots from your book. So what is your comment about, so what's your advice to authors now with everything that is going on? What should they lean on their strengths and then sell from there? Or what expectations should they have from their books?
I think there was a report, I can't remember if it was earlier this year or late last year, and it said something like the average writer, £7,000 a year from
Oh,
writing.
2 years ago, I think 2 or 3 years ago. It's quite a lot.
Yeah, so like I saw, I think my colleague Kate must have flagged it to us because it's like a benchmark, I guess. That's the average.
Yeah.
And actually, you can't, I don't know about you, I can't live on £7,000 a year. I need to earn a bit more money
I
than
need
that. This
that
is the
better.
thing, is that as there are more things taking people's attention, so you mentioned podcasts, television is mine. Like I just love watching
Yeah.
television or
Yeah.
films or music or anything else that someone's doing where they are not picking up a book or listening to a book. Is competition now. And you didn't have that same kind of competition that you used to. Because when I was growing up, it was like you read a book or you watch one of the 4 channels on the telly, and that's it. Or you could maybe listen to a cassette. That was it.
Mhm.
And there's a lot more competition for people's attention now, is the first thing. So I, yeah, so we know that the average author earns £7,000 a year, and that's average. Most
Average.
authors are earning way below that because you're
Mhm.
also counting in that huge best-selling authors who earn thousands and thousands of pounds every royalty period. So I think that it is. I think that some people come into publishing, some writers come into publishing expecting it to be quite a quick, "Oh, I'm going to be earning money from this, it's going to be a thing." But publishing really is a long game. I have clients that I've been working with almost the whole time I've been an agent, and they're starting now to earn what I think is a reasonable royalty. And the
Mm.
reason for that is because whether or not they've had an advance payment for their writing, because a lot of publishers don't offer advances now, they offer enhanced royalty payments
Mhm.
instead. It takes a while for that to build. And also, your payments won't be coming in. Some publishers do pay more regularly, but most publishers will pay twice a year royalty payments, and then there'll be an advance or any kind of subsidiary sales. So, say, for example, they sell rights in a foreign language, there'll be a one off payment for those kinds of things. It's not a reliable source of income, really, because you don't know what's going to come in. And there could be some months where, say, you were getting paid quarterly, there'll be some quarters where there won't be a lot of money that comes in at all. But there might be another quarter where there's been a rights deal, or maybe there's been a Kindle deal that has enhanced the sales a little bit. And so there's some more money. It's tricky because the marketing is obviously so important to the sales. They're two things that are just pushing and pulling against each other all the time, and they need to be working in sync for it to work. On the sales side itself, how do you get a reader to read your book is obviously marketing. If you like, something that publishers do a lot is, if you like this book, you'll also this one. So you're trying to tap into what people already now. You and I, Stella, read an enormous amount of books, I'm sure, but your average reader as well in the country won't read as much. As we're in these funny little circles where everyone we know reads tons and tons of books all the time and knows every author you mentioned. And sometimes when I step outside my house and talk to people who don't work in books, I realize, oh, okay, so people just buy a couple of books for their holiday every year, and that's pretty much it. Evergreen spaces are in publishing, I think, is really important for aspiring authors, because you don't want to say, oh, my book is just like Stephen King. What you want to say is, my book is like Stephen King, but it's also like this author who's emerging. You want to show that there's space in those markets for other people to read things, because if someone's reading 2 books a year and they read every single Stephen King that comes out, but he only publishes 1 book a year, how are you
Mhm.
going to get to be that second book that they read? Do you see what I mean? So I think using those comparisons and being able to read widely, as writers, you need to read widely and understand who your competitors are, where you're different and where you're similar, because it will be both of those things that elevate you up and make you stand out a little bit. I've got the kind of themes that happen in this kind of book. but it's got more of a whatever kind of voice. So it's less of a gritty voice, more of a cozy voice or a warmer voice or whatever. It's really hard to explain. But the other thing that goes with sales is how books look. And I would urge anyone who is self-publishing to hire a cover designer. Don't just bash out your own one on Microsoft Paint, because people do judge books by their
They
covers.
do very
And
much.
retailers will look at the hook, they will look at the description, and they will look at the cover, and they will know straight away what that book is, who its readership is, and that will determine as well what it looks like and how attention grabbing it is, where they position it in the shop. And then the things at the front of a shop, say in Awardstones, when you go to a table, those will be their bestsellers, because what they don't want someone doing is walking in, wanting to buy the next Richard Osman and not being able to find it and just giving up immediately and leaving. So bestsellers will be there, but how do you get those spaces that are facing out? Will you tap into those markets, those readerships? What else might those readers like to look at next? Let's say if they're going to read 2 books a year and they've got space, there's one that they might read because they're going to pick it up at an airport, or just drift into Waterstones, or just go on Kindle and see what's there. It has to catch their attention. But I do that as well. Like when I'm looking at telly, I scroll through Netflix and all the thing, then I'll see something, and I might see some lovely scenery in the background, and maybe some police tape, or maybe a woman and a child or something like that. And I think, oh, maybe this is a kind of like gritty drama. Oh, maybe this is a domestic noir. Maybe this is, we all do that, don't we? We can identify what books are based on how they look. So I think getting that right is incredibly important, which is why publishers spend such an enormous amount of money on creating book covers.
I love book covers.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Those artists are really talented. Like some of the book cover artists are so talented. There's one, I think she might be freelance now, but she used to work in Howsomewhere, Michaela Alcano, and she does all of the, do you know the kind of Greek myth retellings and things that are all ornate and detailed, and oh, they're lovely. And actually she successfully, I'm not sure that she sued them, but she certainly did something or other because I can't remember, one of those like real bargain websites, they stole some of her designs, and were like selling them on blankets and things like that. Yeah, that just shows you, if people want her designs on blankets, that just shows you how much people invest in what book covers look like. And also, obviously, with the younger kind of readership on Book Talk, what I see a lot of when I'm scrolling is people facing their books out, sprayed edges, beautiful editions.
I know.
Yeah,
I'm going to
yeah.
come to Book Talk TikTok. I just want to ask about rights as well, because a lot of authors don't even know anything about rights in terms of when you do representation, and some books like foreign rights, translation rights, audiobook rights. Can you just give us a little bit of info around that?
Yeah.
What rights mean if an author?
Yeah, of course. So if you think about, this is how I like to describe it. If you think about your book as, your book is a book, but it is also, in terms of how an agent or a publisher will be looking at it, it's a piece of IP, it's a piece of intellectual property. Okay, so it is your creative endeavor I like to think of it as a pie. So you've got this pie, which is your book, and you might slice a bit off of that, and that will be the book publishing rights, the English language book publishing rights, which is the primary market, obviously. But there are many, that little slice of the pie isn't the whole pie. There's this whole thing there waiting to be divvied up with all these different things you can do with it, because it is a piece of intellectual property. It's not just a book, it's intellectual property. So one thing of that is, as you've mentioned, translation rights. So that's taking the book and they're taking these like other smaller bits of pie like that, because it's just the same thing, but it's translating that book into a different language. Now, how an agent works is they represent you, they represent those rights, they represent, so as an author, all of those rights are yours unless sold. So an agent never at any point owns any of those rights. They're just this conduit. They're taking them and going, would you like a bit of this pie? Would you like a bit of this pie? And then hopefully selling those rights, and then taking a commission percentage as part of that. And then the author receives the rest of the payment, obviously. So there's translation, which are bits of the pie as well. Other bits of pie are film and TV. dramatic rights, also like plays, putting on plays. That's another kind. Anything you could think of to do with a piece of intellectual property is potentially something you can sell as rights. If you think about a tea towel with a quote on, if that's a quote from your piece of intellectual property, that is merchandising rights. Gaming rights is another one that comes up. If someone wants to turn your book into a computer game, that's another kind of. And also the one that, so my colleague Kate Nash, she writes a Substack called, I think it's called Slush Pile Mountaineering. It's really good. Have a look at it. I highly recommend it because she breaks down and demystifies. Yeah. And she was saying one of the kinds of rights that pops up in publishing contracts a lot of the time is theme park rights. Because if you think of something like Harry Potter, for example,
you're right.
it's a right. Every bit of intellectual property, and there'll be more. Like, I'm sure I could sit here and just be like, oh, you could make this from a book, or you could make that from a book, and it will be a different kind of right. It'll be a different piece of this pie. So I think that quite often people think, oh, I've sold my book to a publisher in the UK. That's me done. I've got a client actually who I sold her book and she thought, that's it now. And then as soon as I was emailing with other things like film and TV interest or foreign rights deals, she said, oh, I thought it was done, but it's actually just starting now, isn't it? Because that was just a small portion. So there are all these things, and not all of those rights always get sold. But the thing is, they belong to you as the author. They belong to you. And so I think it's really important to understand rights. I'm sure, like Kate Nash Literary Agency ran a course, I think, was it earlier in the year, about rights, so people could understand their rights. So occasionally agents or other kind of organisations, maybe the Society of Authors, etc., will run courses on rights, and I think they're incredibly interesting. And it goes back to what I say about authors needing to understand publishing as a business. So yeah, it's very interesting, and you could talk all day about it, but yeah, imagine the piece of pie and all the different things you can do with this piece of intellectual property pie.
Yeah. And you have major markets where you as agents, because I know that you guys are always very excited when it comes to the fairs. So you got London Fair where all sorts of businesses are taking place. The Frankfurt Book Fair. Is there other kinds of book fairs where
Frankfurt Book Fair?
So you all come together and you're doing all these businesses. I always feel like it's like a jury. I'm very obsessed with juries. So it's like juries, isn't it? People are just, it's a marketplace for but the juries this time are books.
You broke up a little bit, so I heard London Book Fair, Frankfurt Book Fair.
London Book Fair, Frankfurt Book Fair. So I thought, are there other kind of book fairs? I said it's like jury districts where people are the jury dealers are selling juries to each other. But what's you publishers and agents and
exactly, yeah. You've been to London Book Fair. It's people showing off all their wares, isn't it? What have I got? And then you're looking around as well and you're thinking, oh, I haven't heard of that. I haven't heard of that publisher. I'll just nip and get a catalogue, see what they do. And it's all just making things tangible, being able to see them. There's Frankfurt, but there's also, I think we're going to try to go to, I can't remember the name of it now, but there's one that a lot of publishers and rights people go to in, I want to say Sweden. Anyway, I can't remember the name of it, but it's somewhere in Scandinavia. And the reason people go there is because the Frankfurt Book Fair is obviously, it's huge, but it's incredibly expensive to attend. So a lot of publishers wait and just go to that smaller book fair. So we're going to experiment with going to some other book fairs as well. There are lots of different book fairs in these markets. It's just, but London and Frankfurt are certainly the biggest, but I think going to the smaller ones as well is really important for publishers. But I mean, there are so many places that you can go, because there are conferences as well. The bookseller, I don't know if they still do, actually used to run Future Book. There's the IPG, the Independent Publishers Guild conference. There are lots of conferences going on. And there are really good rights conferences for agents and rights professionals to go to, run by the Publishers Association. So there are a lot of people are investing a lot of time and money in getting speakers to update on things. And the same goes for things like, the last time I went to a Publishers Association rights conference, I also saw someone from the British Copyright Council talking, which was really interesting, and someone else who was talking about AI, the impact that they and the government, because there was the whole government, people were lobbying the government to
take more proactive action to protect.
Exactly, to protect creators, protect creative work. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. You just got to know where to go. But if you've got a good agent and a good publisher, they'll be there.
So that will make me segue into technology and into social media. So now we know that AI technology is not going away. Anthropic technology company is an AI company that produces generative AI called Claude, which is it's produced mainly for creatives. So Anthropic trained their what they call the large language model, their technology on pirated books. So they are going to settle. So they're not going to go to court, but they're going to settle, and they're going to be paying authors some money. So that settlement has not been agreed yet, but there will be fractions of money that will be paid out to authors. So that's the future of AI technology. Probably some of the AI companies will settle this way. But what I've heard now, I think Britain is moving in that direction, is that technology companies in the States can buy books and train the AI model on books legally. So what they can't do is what they've done, which is go and take pirated, training their models on pirated companies, but they can buy books and they can train their models on them. Because what they're saying is that they're calling it something like fair use, which is you're training your model on this. It's like a grain in the sand. That's what they're saying. We're moving in that direction where AI technology is going to be part and parcel of tech, not just publishing company, but everything else. It's quite a disruptive technology. It's going to disrupt everything. The disruption is going to change the nature of publishing. And when I say will change the nature of publishing, because there's some writers that don't, or authors that say, oh yeah, you're for AI. I don't let AI near my own writing because I like my voice, but I use AI tools for a lot of heavy lifting in so many ways. When it comes to my writing, it's my voice, and I don't want that anything to happen to my voice.
This is the big argument I have, is that we're using, or currently the things that AI is being developed for are the things that it shouldn't be being developed for. I don't want AI to write art, to make art. We don't need AI to make art, to write, to do any creative endeavors. What we need AI to do is, I don't know, hang my washing out. I don't know, walk the dogs, like whatever it is. And I think that's the problem, is that this fair use idea. Now, this has been something that's it's fine in publishing, and you'll see it in contracts as well all the time, that a publisher may authorize, like, and it's normally 5 or 10% of a book, and say look inside on Amazon, so people can have a look and see if they like the voice and if they want to commit to buying it and that kind of thing. You'll often get a little bit of free content, and that's a marketing tool, right? But there's a difference. If you're using that, if you're scraping that and then ingesting it into something in order for it to learn how someone speaks, it's fine if it, I mean, it's not fine, but in theory, if it's one book and it's 5,000 words, it is a grain of sand. However, if you've got an author who's written 30 books and you're able to take 5,000 books from 5,000 words from every single one of them, and then you're able to say to AI, because it has enough from that author for you to say, write me a book in the style of so and so, then all of this is a problem. And you mentioned about people getting compensation. This is another thing. The problem is that there was no opt-in or opt-out. It just happened. It just happened. It just took people's work. And our job as agents is to, because of course, as everything's changing all the time, the landscape is changing all the time, the tools are changing all the time, the threats and worries are changing all the time. Our job as agents is to protect our authors as much as we can. So we are, I know that other agents are as well, because Kate Nash Literary Agency is a member of the AA, so that's a UK-based organisation, the Association for Authors Agents, and there's a committee and we have meetings and things like that. And AI is something we talk about a lot because we all want to protect our clients, even though we're competitors, different literary agents, we all want to protect our clients. And we certainly are asking for clauses in contracts to protect people against AI, but specifically to make publishers commit to not selling off authors' work or authorizing it being ingested into large language models, machines, because you're killing, it's suicide. It's creative and it's publishing suicide. I do think there are tools that AI tools that can help publishing in terms of, for example, I don't know, scheduling or
Mm,
making sure data goes out to the right places at the right time more efficiently. Things that, and then freeing up time for editors and people in-house salespeople to be more creative. But the worry, I think, for everyone in publishing is that you don't want the creative space to be filled with AI doing that kind of work for you.
which is sad, which is happening because you can control what happens in certain countries where the regulation takes place, but you can't control what happens in other countries outside of that. And
Yeah,
you have the marketplaces like Amazon and all that that are flooded with AI written work. So
yeah,
this is why the advice is that authors is create your own community, create
yes,
super, if you have a mailing list and you have your users that you've created over that you've cultivated over time, they'll be loyal to you, and then you can create
yeah.
those communities around you that
Yeah, and they will be able to tell when it's you as well. They
they
will
will know
know
that it's
because
you.
these people are like you are. When you go to these festivals and you buy a book by an author and you get it signed, you want that first edition hardback and you want to get it signed by the author to you because you're investing in them.
Yeah.
And you mentioned charity shops as well. Like all of my favorite authors now were authors that when I was a student, I
Mm,
would go and buy their books from the local charity shop and I would just pick them up based on how they looked and I'll try this and I'll try that. And
yeah.
it's a way to experiment, isn't it?
Mhm.
And I think that supporting real authors and real creators is just more important than ever.
Yeah.
And when I'm talking to people on TikTok and they say, would you take a submission that's AI generated? I say no. And please stop putting your work into Chat GPT. Just don't put it in there. I think authors just have to be quite careful. But as agents, as I say, we are insisting on language being inserted into contracts now to protect people's copyright, creative rights, everything as much as we can. And it's up to the publishers to be making sure they're not just I think we've all seen pieces in the bookseller of this publisher has sold a lot of content to
Yeah.
whoever, and it's been the most places I've seen it as so far has been for non-fiction and education stuff. But someone's
Mm,
written that, and someone now isn't getting commission. Actually, your one-off payment, your measly one-off payment, isn't adequate. I
yeah.
don't believe, and it's all too new to know how that's going to impact those authors to agree on a one-off payment now, to
Mm,
just agree to ingest something. Yeah, it's something that we're keeping a close eye on for sure. Also, I do think that publishers, if they're not already, I think they will start using tools to detect AI written
mm,
things because
mm,
it's completely possible in theory. Now, I'd like to think it wouldn't happen, but of course it's possible that someone
mm.
could submit a book to me that is completely AI generated and I could submit it to a publisher. But I believe publishers will be using their own tools to detect AI generated content because they'll have to, because that's their reputation.
It's so
Yeah,
and then maybe
it
public
is.
do at like looking, they'll be looking at okay, somebody is submitted and they're interested in it. They want to know if there's a human behind it. And
Yeah,
is that work AI generated or so it can't be anonymous. You cannot come out of nowhere and just say I'm writing a book and we'll just
yeah, exactly.
be very strange. It's a way we're going into prospecting, the days
Yeah,
of prospecting where what do they call Wild West at the moment?
yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
It feels a bit like it. Yeah, it does.
like
I
that.
think this is why having those, like you say, those communities, a good agent, a good publisher who understands what you're writing and what you're doing, and who respects your creative work is so important.
Yeah. So now I'm
Mm.
going to segue, and we're coming to the end of going towards the end of it of the podcast now. So I'm going to like segue into social media and
Mhm.
importance of social media because you are on TikTok.
Hmm.
Someone that told me that you were on TikTok. I didn't know you were on TikTok. So tell me more about your decision to go on TikTok and the importance of social media in marketing.
I think for authors, I think that those communities, knowing what other authors are doing, what publishers are doing, and what they're focusing on, is the best use of social media. I was because a lot of my clients say, "Oh, shall I sign?" Because there are so many platforms now, right? There's TikTok, there's Blue Sky, there's still Twitter dying in the corner somewhere, Instagram, there's all the rest of it, Facebook. there are so many, and they're like, oh, do I need to have all of them? What should I do on them? And I know this from my sales and marketing days. You don't just put out the same content on every platform, because the demographics are different. What people are looking for is different on those platforms. So I always say to my authors, ideally, I want you to concentrate on writing. And if you're going on social media, use it as almost like research. Use it as having a look what's going on, what's the landscape doing, what are authors writing, what are publishers pushing, just so you have an understanding of publishing as a business. Now, for me as an agent, I'm doing all those things. I'm watching what authors are doing, I'm watching what publishers are doing, but I'm also watching what readers are reading. I'm looking at people. There's a lot of videos, especially on TikTok and Instagram, about book hauls, people going to the shop and then showing you all the books they've bought. I'm also watching content from bookshops, because they'll often tell you our top 10 bestsellers this week were. I'm watching all the bookish content I can get my hands on. And the reason I started using TikTok, because all of my clients were in slightly different places. So, like, some on Twitter, some on Instagram, some on Facebook. And I thought, I want to be serving them well as an agent and supporting them wherever they are. They shouldn't have to be forced to go on TikTok just because there's an agency account there or whatever. But whatever. What I started doing initially was, whenever I get my author copies, as an agent, if we do a contract for an author, we'll quite often get in their complimentary copies. And when they arrive in the post, I would hold it up and spin it around a bit, do a video and say, this is this book, it's by my client, it's really great, it's about this, you can buy it soon, that kind of thing. Then recently I was updating my manuscript wish list, so things that I'm looking for. I thought I better update it because it's been a while. I just want people to know that I'm still alive, I'm still looking for clients. And I did it, and I just did it in words like I normally do on Instagram and on Twitter, which I don't think I could use that platform anymore. But anyway, Blue Sky, I didn't do it on Facebook, but it's only because I have a personal account on Facebook and nothing else. But I did, and I just did it in words like, this is the kind of thing I'm looking for. I'm a working class literary agent, so I like working class voices, but I'm interested in all kinds of different diverse voices, and I like these kinds of stories and blah, blah, blah. So I did a couple of things. And then I thought, oh, my whole thing is casting as wide a net as possible, because if you're not in the book industry or writing, how are you going to know where to find these things? And I thought, oh God, I better actually put my face on TikTok and say, hello, this is what I look like. I've been waving books around, but I'm going to tell you what I want. And so I just did a video. I literally just held my phone in front of my face and did a video and said, I'd like these kinds of books. And if you're writing them, then I'd like to see them, please. And I thought, the reason I did it, the reason I started on TikTok, was because I thought, I'm missing out a whole demographic of people here who find TikTok that's the accessible format for them. And it's not just the accessible social media, it's like the accessible kind of, it's almost like streaming entertainment, like it's everything in one. It's information, it's the lot. And I thought, do you know what, if someone's ever searched for any kind of book things or whatever, surely I'll just flash up on their For You page, like in the algorithm. I'm just going to trust that I'm going to show up. And I did. I did, and I got loads and loads of views on that, and I got loads and loads of queries, and it was really fantastic. And actually, I think the month I did that, which I think was July, I think I got my most ever queries on Query Manager.
Wow, so it
And
worked.
then, yeah, it worked. And then since then, I've done a couple more videos on the grid. But what I've been doing is I've been going on TikTok live, because that video got me loads of followers. So I had enough to go live. You have to have 1,000 followers. So I've started going live, and I go live as often as I can. I try to go live once a day for half an hour or an hour over my lunch break. And I just say, hello, if you've got any questions for a literary agent, let me know. And then I sit here and I look through my queries and answer some emails, and then I answer some questions. And the reason I do it is because publishing it doesn't mean to be, I don't believe, but it is quite, it feels like it's in this kind of cage away from everyone else, and no, get away from publishing, can't come near publishing. And it shouldn't be. Everything, information should be accessible, everything should be clear. And I go on and on all the time that publishing is a business. It's not about people sitting in their ivory tower picking what to publish. It's a business. They are making business decisions when they are choosing something to be published. The reason they're publishing something is because they believe they can sell it, they can market it, and it will get publicity, and readers will enjoy it. And so I thought, if I'm not, I need to just start demystifying the process a little bit. And I'm not the first person to do this. Kate writes a Substack. I know that Phoebe Morgan, who is at Hodder, but she's Lee. I can't remember where she's going now. Anyway, she's an editor who's also a writer. She does a Substack. I know that people have done. There's Alice. I've forgotten her surname, but her literary. She's got like a YA literary agency called Ash, ASH literary agency. She does TikTok lives as well. But I think seeing those kinds of things for people makes people think maybe that literary agents are completely inaccessible. And I don't ever want to feel inaccessible as a literary agent. I want people to be able to contact me, and I want to be able to tell them clearly what I'm looking for. Because when I came into publishing, I didn't think that was a space that was accessible to me because of my background and where I was from. And I don't want anyone else to feel like that. And if we're not having diverse stories and books and people with wide ranges of experience writing books, then we're done for. We may as well all just give up. That's why I started using TikTok, because I thought actually we know how many, what are there, billions of users on TikTok, like 2 billion users or something like that. And I thought we need to talk to everyone. If everyone's there, that's where I'm going to go. And I still post on as many social media as I can, just because my clients are all over the place. But I found that really interesting, actually. And the feedback I've been getting is, thanks for asking my question. I find literary agents so inaccessible. I don't understand this. And it's always things that I can answer very easily and quickly. They might ask about rights, for example, or they might, someone asked me the other day, do I have to register copyright in the UK? And I said, no, copyright is automatically assigned in the UK.
Americans, yeah, they do that,
Yeah.
don't they?
Do you know what? It's stuff that I know, and I can give that to people while I'm just sat here doing my emails for half an hour a day, and then they can just go and they can make more informed decisions when they're approaching literary agents. And then hopefully we get a wider range of people feeling confident enough to submit to agents and therefore being presented to publishers. That's important.
So talking about, so in terms of the future, and I know it's a difficult question to ask you, but hopefully you'll be able to think about it or mull on it. How do you see the future? I know it's a bit, like I said, it's a bit difficult to ask. In the light of this fast-moving technology, in the light of knowing that I don't feel that people have caught up enough with what is going on. I feel that people, and it's not looking down on anyone, but just my own feeling that people are not, they don't know enough, and I don't know why, to make informed decisions about how they're going to be positioned. So what is your thought on that? How do people, what should they do? Because people are
I think
they're at different stages, aren't they?
Yeah, everyone's at different stages, but you know what? It doesn't matter what stages people are at, but it's the same kind of questions that come up, I find. It doesn't matter if you've been published for 10 years or if you've just starting to approach literary agents. So many people don't know this information. I always recommend people engage with. There are so many free resources, YouTube videos from literary agents, people doing TikTok lives or Facebook lives, answering questions as well on Instagram lives. I would find, and they do things like this as well, like they'll go and talk on a podcast. And I've done like written interviews as well with Jericho writers and with someone else, and I've listed them on my query manager so people can find them. I think that the best thing you can do as authors is look for those talks. Now, there are so many talks called things like the future of publishing. And I know that you go to London Book Fairs, and there are lots of things happening in the side rooms there. And what is it? It's about 30 or 40 quid a ticket. I can't remember anyway. Like, you can go for a day. Anyone can buy a ticket and go for a day. And there are loads and loads of talks that happen around there. And there's always one called the future of publishing, or diversity in publishing, or what's next for publishing, or digital publishing in the next 10 years, what's going to happen. And you get real kind of experts in those fields talking about what they think are going to be the key challenges for people. As far as I see, it's going to be AI, and it's going to be protecting creators' copyright. I don't want there to be a move towards people just thinking, oh, okay, I've got an idea, I'm just going to put it into AI and that's going to become a book. It doesn't work. Now, it may one day, but it does not work currently. But I think that the UK government, and as other governments as well, the UK government is the one that I'm obviously most cross at and keep writing to, but need to protect creators, because so much of this country is built on brilliant creative people. And if we don't protect them, we're not going to have any great TV, we're not going to have any great books, we're not going to have any great music. So, yeah, so my advice to people is, remember, publishing is a business. Inform yourself about it, and there are plenty of free resources to do. Follow literary agents, follow publishing people on TikTok and social media, because a lot of them will be giving a lot of information. But also look at YouTube. There are people like big agents like Johnny Geller who have done talks on YouTube or TED Talks or things like that. Literally just look up agents, publishing people, see what they're saying, and look at the kinds of free events you can get online. There are platforms like, I'm not sure if I Am in Print do any events as such, but Jericho Writers do events, Book Machine
Writers
do
Agency.
events,
Yeah.
Society of Authors, if you remember, do events, because I've attended a couple of them as well, just as they let me into a few sometimes if I want to know something. There are all of these kinds of organizations that are trying to help people and make information as accessible as possible. And it's easy to bury your head in the sand. And you don't have to know every single tiny little thing, especially not if you're working with an agent or a publisher, because obviously it's their job to be keeping you safe, but you do owe it to yourself to understand how the industry is changing and how it might affect you.
And in terms of people, because I know you, yes, people will go and listen to you on TikTok, and we're going to put all your social media handles in the show notes. But in terms of what you're looking for, what are the kind of work that you're looking for at the moment?
Oh, Stella, it's such a hard question, because I'm looking for, sometimes you don't know what you want until you see it. That's what I will say. But I'll tell you what I'd really love is, what would I really love? So I like commercial fiction. I'll do a little bit of upmarket, but generally commercial fiction is what I love to read and what I represent. But I don't know if have you ever read The Seven Sisters by Lucinda Riley?
She died. I was heartbroken.
I know. Oh my
And
goodness.
guess what? I've not read Salt yet.
Haven't you? Have you not? Oh my God. I got it as soon as
I've
it
been
came
keeping
out. I got it
I've
as
been
soon as it
I
came.
know I've been keeping it when you're keeping something secretly like a treasure.
Yeah,
But I
yeah,
must read because I want to know the end of it. I've been following the Seven Sisters for a long time.
yeah,
And then she
yeah.
passed away, but thankfully she went into partnership with her son.
Yeah, and
And
he's great actually. He's done a really good job
great,
on Salt. Yeah.
what a legacy.
I know.
So yeah,
She's
so
so
are you looking
wonderful.
for a Lucinda Riley? Kind
I
of.
would love something
You
like,
are so
because that's a bit of everything. It's almost like a saga, but it's a family saga. It's a love story, something
incredible.
really sweeping and gorgeous.
Love it. I
And
love it.
I always love stories about women and women's lives and how they came to be where they are. And I think that just ticks a lot of my boxes. It's family based, it's romantic, it's a bit exotic and different. I learn about loads of different places. It's full of
Yes,
women doing
a lot.
great things.
Yes.
I'd love
So
something like that. I'd love
you
something
would
like
travel
that.
to those places and
Mm.
absorb it and then come back and then do the writing. It was incredible.
Anything
Lucinda
like
Riley.
that would be great. Yeah. And the other thing I'd quite like is like a more kind of traditional love story. David Nichols' One Day. Did you watch the television
Oh,
adaptation?
I'm just going for
The
it.
recent one.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, I think at the moment, but the thing is, I don't know about you, but I'm a real mood reader as well a lot of the time. And I'll be like, oh, I really fancy something a bit dark, or I really fancy something a bit cozy, or I really fancy.
Like that,
And I
yeah.
think at the moment, just based on what I've told you, I think at the moment I'm just feeling very nice and content in my life. And I
Mhm,
just want something to cocoon me. Do you know what I
mhm,
mean? But as you know, I'm into all kinds of things, light and dark, funny,
mhm.
serious, whatever. But I think top of my wish list would be something, a lovely sweeping love story like One Day, and a sweeping family saga as well.
I
Be
hope
my
you're all
top wishes.
hearing. And if you're that
Yeah.
author, I'm only keeping the Lucinda Riley, the last one.
Let me know what you think of it. But I thought our son's called Harry, I think. I thought he did an excellent job. I think I was worried going into it because I thought, oh, it's just not going to be as good.
Was
And it looked a lot longer. And I thought, God, has he done that thing where he has to write loads more because he can't quite do it right? But he was good. He was really good. And I thought it was a very satisfying ending. And it made me feel all nice and warm.
it's
And
really now.
I'm going to reread all of them again, I think, because they're just so comforting.
Yeah, I was trying to collect the books, but my goodness, they're as big as this.
Yeah, they're really big. They're
Yeah,
really. I've
I
got a
started
couple, but I've got the rest on Kindle because I
yeah,
can't.
I had I think I
Yeah.
bought his son's one of the I've got about two and they're like this
Yeah.
big. And I
Yeah,
was
they're massive. Yeah. They
yeah.
don't feel it, do they, when you're reading them?
You fly through them.
Yeah, I
You
love
fly
it. I
through them.
really love it. I
Two
really love.
books.
That's why I'd love to have something like that because I think it'd just be just
Unreal.
sumptuous and just fun. It's fun, but it's also just like really heartfelt. It just ticks a lot of boxes. Yeah.
I've got some I'm feeling we're coming to the end now. And I'm looking at what question I wanted to ask you in terms of going to the end. So do you think you've missed any books? Well, I'm not going to say you should name it, but do you think there's a book you've missed that or you think that you've got all the books that you wanted in, as an agent? Or have you missed one that is out there that
Yeah, there've been a few that have got away.
the book that you want to put
Yeah,
away?
the ones that got away. But I tell you what, what's interesting is some of them have got deals and some of them have not got deals. And this just goes to show you that everything, because obviously ones that have got away will be ones that I have been offering on, as well as one or more other agents. Sometimes you're in like competition with several other agents who are all wanting to represent the same author. And some of those haven't got deals. Everything is so subjective. Everything is, you don't know ultimately until you send something out to a publisher how it's going to land. So yeah, I've got a few that got away and some of them have gone on to get deals. And I'm genuinely really pleased about that because I always say to people, I just want everyone to find their right agent. And when I'm offering someone representation, I say, I hope that's me, but if it's not, I understand. I want you to find the right person for you. But there have been some, like I say, that haven't ended up with representation, and the authors are, I'm sure, writing something different now. But it just goes to show so much is about timing.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what do you think is a publishing myth that you'd love to debunk?
Publishing myth that I'd love to debunk.
Yeah.
I think it's the one about publishing is just this impenetrable fortress of people who are really clever, having these big ideas floating around, reading leather-bound hardbacks all day. It's not true. Like everyone in publishing, they're just a bunch of idiots like me. It's also, this is the thing. They're just people doing a job. That's the publishing myth I want to debunk. Is that there's nothing special happening in publishing offices. They are just a bunch of people in an office doing a job and they love what they do, don't get me wrong, and they're very talented at what they do. But I think that sometimes publishing is held in this, people look at it and think, oh, these people in their ivory tower chopping books to bits and just rejecting authors. And it's not like that. Everyone in publishing wants to publish as many great books as they possibly can, and everyone wants the same thing for those books to sell. And I think a lot of what I'm trying to do when I'm talking on TikTok and anywhere else is, or when I'm just talking to my clients direct, is just make sure they understand the process, what's happening. So the publishing myth that I want to debunk is that it's this kind of just weird, airy fairy. It's a business. That's my bottom line. It's a business. The more you can understand about how the business works, then the more successful you'll be within it.
And in terms of favorite way to unwind, when you're not reading manuscripts, what are the ways that you unwind? You've mentioned TV, I know.
TV, yeah. I love watching like really rubbish TV. Love is Blind. I just finished watching Love is Blind. I can't get enough of that. I'm
I've never watched it.
desperate. I love it hasn't had a new series for ages, but stuff like Selling Sunset. I love that as well. But I'm
Yeah.
also, we've just moved house. So we were in Essex and now we're in Lincolnshire, which is closer
Oh,
to my dad and my partner Mark's parents as well.
yeah, that's
And
nice.
so at the moment, actually, in between working and reading manuscripts, I'm seeing family, which I haven't been able to do because we've been quite far away.
Yeah,
I'm walking my dogs in the Fenland countryside. It's all very flat here, big skies. I'm just enjoying being back like home
that's
and seeing friends and just enjoying being around family, just normal stuff, which is again why I say don't put publishers in the ivory tower. They are just people watching Love is Blind at home and walking their dogs. That's all they are.
balance.
Yeah,
Balance. Yeah, balance. And
yeah.
also living or dead to go for to lunch with.
Oh gosh.
Very long list.
Yeah, it's really hard, isn't it? Do you know what? Oh no, I don't know. It's too hard. Maybe someone like, who would I go for lunch with, living or dead? Oh, Stella, you've done me in on the last hurdle. I've fallen at the last hurdle.
I know who
Lucinda,
I'd be
let's say
lunching.
Lucinda Riley because I've gone on such a long one about her. Let's
Oh,
say
this is
Lucinda
the
Riley
right
because you know
thing.
what? I think I would just say to her, I would just say to her, I just love you and I think you're wonderful. And that would be enough for me. That's all I want to say to authors that I like is I love you and I think you're wonderful. Yeah, let's go with Lucinda Riley because she seems to be
Yeah,
my top pick today.
yeah. My two top picks, I know people might say, oh yeah, but I actually want J.K. Rowling, but I'm
Yeah,
Robert Galbraith. Well,
yeah, yeah.
I
No, I
love
get
that
that.
strike novels. So
They're
I don't want
really
to talk about
good.
I
They're
don't want
really
to talk
good.
about Harry Potter. I want to talk about how she writes her strike novels.
Yeah, no, they're great.
Chimamanda, whom everybody will want to go to lunch with, but I like Chimamanda. So
Yeah, of course.
Toni Morrison's would have been, but I think I would have gone to Toni Morrison's lunch and not be able to say anything because I'm too old.
Yeah, that's the yeah, that's the thing. So I remember I read my first Toni Morrison when I was at university, and I was like, when you read something and you just think, yeah, because her books are very short, and
Yeah,
I was like, how have you done this
yeah,
with so few words? So
amazing.
yeah, Toni Morrison. There are so many just brilliant authors. I'd love to go for lunch with Stephen King. So I think it'd just be really fun and weird. And do you know what? Robin Hobb. Have you heard of her? Fancy author?
Oh, Robin Hood. Wow.
Robin Hobb, I just love her. I just think she's
She
so
does,
good at
doesn't she?
characterization.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, she's one I said earlier where I'd go to charity shops and just pick up something if it looked quite good.
Yes,
She's
yes.
one that I remember picking hers up in a charity shop in Leeds and reading it, and then I've bought everything she's written since then. This is the
Ah,
thing, is always love charity shops or cheap shops to buy books
be
because I think
careful.
it's a
Yeah.
gateway. It's a
Yeah,
gateway
I
in,
love the
isn't it?
fact that you can actually pay it forward
Yeah,
with charity shops. Once you finish and then
exactly.
take it back
Yeah, I love it.
and it goes on to somebody else.
I
Somebody else
love
will
it.
take
Yeah,
it out.
exactly that. Yeah. So, yeah, quite a lot of authors. And of course, all of my wonderful clients, they would be a top
Oh,
pick. I'd just go out with all of them at once.
come on with us. Come
There
on
you
with
go. Yeah,
us.
exactly. Yeah.
Francesca, that it's been
Yeah.
amazing. So finally, I know you're on TikTok, but how do people connect with you and what are your handles? I'll put them in the show notes, but you can tell people.
Yeah. All my handles, I changed them all, so they're all the same. They're all Lit Agent Fran, and I'm on Twitter, but not very active there. Blue Sky, Threads, Instagram, and TikTok. I think that's everything. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, thanks so much for coming here. I know I'm going to enjoy going back over the interview because I think you've just put some amazing nuggets, lots of things that you can mull over. So thank you
I'm
so
really
much
glad.
for guiding me. We had a lot of technical and non-technical errors, including some gremlins trying to stop us. We won.
We did
Thank you
have that
guys for listening
gremlin,
to us.
yeah, we won.
Right, bye
No,
guys.
it's been great.
So guys, that was Francesca Riccardi of Kate Nash Literary Agency. And I will tell you, get pen and notepaper out. If you haven't made notes, go back and listen to the interview and actually just take notes because we covered different bits of publishing and being a literary agent and sales and marketing. So there'll be things for each person. And I'm going to try to do a solo episode. I might even do it before this or after, but likely to be after Francesca's this interview. I'll do a solo episode looking at technology as a whole and where we're headed in a way, just looking at what is out in the industry, in most industries, where we're headed. In the meantime, wherever you're listening to this, be it Apple, Spotify, or any of the platforms, or YouTube, please follow, review, because this is what keeps me going. I'm also planning to start a Patreon soon. I've been talking about Patreon. I don't know. I think I've mentioned it a few times. I'm going to start a Patreon and I'm planning to give good value in terms of like just looking at technology as a whole and what you can do in order to keep up with what is going on and so many other things that I would like to share. And I think I've accumulated quite a lot of knowledge over the years, and I'd really love to share that with my audience. So I'm looking forward to that, to setting that Patreon up, and hopefully. But in the meantime, I don't even have a buy me coffee or anything set up. I'll probably do a buy me coffee, so you can buy me coffee. So this was episode 26. We're going a bit, we're going slowly, getting there slowly, and I'm looking forward to. I've got another interview next. I'm looking forward to that. And I've got more exciting guests coming. So please remember, like I said, especially if you're watching from YouTube, subscribe. My subscribers are so low at the moment. So please subscribe and do everything possible to make me keep coming back to give you good value. Take care and talk soon. Bye.